Styx, Master of Shadows is a stealth game that was released this October by the French development studio Cyanide. In it, you play as Styx, the Goblin Prime, the first of all the goblins. Styx is a master in the arts of stealth, thievery, and murder, and therefore a real master of shadows. He's also a real mean-looking character, with cuts all over his scaly green skin. He's all covered in black and leather, and he's decked out with daggers and knives that are almost as big as his arms. The majority of the game has you infiltrating the Tower of Akanash, a sprawling fortress built around the World Tree, the source of magic in Styx's world. The tower is miles high, and each hall, battlement, and courtyard of the great tower is crawling with armed guards. Styx is a goblin nearly half their size, and completely outclassed against just 2 such guards at a time, and yet he still sets out on his crazy, Herculean task to steal the heart of the World Tree in one of the most fortified fortresses in fiction. That is exactly the feeling that Styx, Master of Shadows evokes with every step that you take in the Goblin's boots, and it's also what sets it apart as a contender in the world of stealth games. Cyanide makes you think and feel like Styx, like an insane little green creature that wants to take on the world simply because it's all he knows how to do. Playing this game, you really feel like an intruder that could be discovered and killed at any moment if you aren't careful. But at the same time, Styx can get anywhere, take anything, remove any obstacle in front of him if he just remains a ghost. Styx, Master of Shadows, evokes the strange feeling of goblin use through the obvious methods, Styx's appearance and the way he moves through the world, but also through his weaknesses that make it necessary for him to choose when and where he fights with the utmost care. And also, the Tower of Akanash itself lends feelings of scale that dwarf the tiny goblin. So come with me through the tower, and we'll see why Styx is so good at what it does, making you feel like a master of shadows.
The Atrium of Akanash. A world shut inside another. This is what humans do when they don't understand a thing. They build walls around it. They put locks on the doors, and they put soldiers in front of those doors. The bigger the secret, the bigger the lock. And the craziest are those who want to pick it.
The Tower of Akanash is big. It's probably big enough to have at least 2 of its own zip codes. To give you some perspective, let's take, for example, just the size of the very first chapter. After the tutorial zones, the next zone I entered into, the one you see here, is about the size I've come to expect from stealth games. A squarish area about 400 to 500 yards on each side. Big, but not too huge for a creature that can scale walls as easily as Styx can. And then, when I thought I had come to the end of the chapter, there was another zone, nearly as big, and then another much bigger, but the last zone truly dwarfed it in size. And then there were 6 more chapters still to go. I stopped keeping track after the first chapter, but it took about 6 or 7 hours of playing time to sneak and stab through just that one. This is perhaps a wildly unfair comparison, but HowLongToBeat.com is a website that has user polls on how long it takes gamers to complete their games. The average playthrough of the newest Call of Duty Advanced Warfare clocked in at around 7 hours, with the truly complete run-throughs taking 14.5 hours on average. Styx, on the other hand, is 28 hours to beat on average, and 65 hours to play to completion. That's a lot of crawling. That is a big tower.
Where do you come from? I've never seen anything that looks like you.
I am one of a kind.
The biggest part of the experience, in fact, that part that I believe makes it the most enjoyable, is the decisions that the design forces you to make. In many stealth games, the player is rewarded for dispatching enemies. The player will be rewarded in some way for every kill made, either with points or with beneficial items. Sometimes the player will even be rewarded more for killing enemies stealthily. However, this is still forcing the player to take the path of violence, because it's difficult to reward the player in a tangible way for not killing an individual enemy. And why would you do something in a video game that you aren't going to be rewarded for? Styx gets around the issue entirely by not rewarding you when you make a kill. In fact, in some situations, killing an enemy will make them fall and break a delicate item that they have, preventing you from getting one item out of the finite materials that Styx is afforded. Not rewarding the player directly in the form of experience or gold or items has a transformative effect on the way that the player perceives every possible encounter. By not rewarding the player for killing people, the player is really put in the perspective of our green friend. Instead of killing indiscriminately or just to rack up points, the player is allowed to see guards and other characters for what they really are to Styx: obstacles. And if the player can get around an obstacle without doing something high profile, like killing a guard in broad daylight, especially when hiding the body is going to be difficult, then there's no reason to kill in the first place. Since Styx was released in October, it scored very erratically with players and professional reviewers alike. It scored a few 50s out of 100 and a few 90s too. The 50s criticized the combat for feeling clunky, but the 90s praised the combat for feeling clunky? I think the erratic reviews stem from a basic misunderstanding of what Styx is as a game. It is, at its heart, a game of pure stealth. The player can decide how to proceed however they want, as long as it's quickly and quietly. And that's what makes Styx such a powerful stealth game. It puts you in the very mind of Styx, Master of Shadows. I give my